Hi, everybody. This is Gloria Lara, Executive Director of Lakeshore Ethnic Diversity Alliance, otherwise known as LEDA. And thank you so much for joining us today. We started doing these, they were first community conversations, and now they are conversations with allies and visionaries in June of last year. We believe that it was really important for different people to hear different voices of organizations and people that you don't ordinarily run across in your day-to-day life. I've been highlighting mainly BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And every now and then, I bring in a spokesperson or someone who has really an interesting viewpoint that would be great for all of you to really listen to and to hear. So thank you for being with us. Today, I am really excited to bring you Feliciano Paredes. He is the CEO of AgHelp, Inc. He attended James Madison College at MSU. He has over 15 years of experience in the workforce development field. He is a former foreign labor certification officer and assistant state monitor for the state of Michigan. But I met Feliciano a few years ago when he was just barely starting to get his company, AgHelp, off the ground. So Feliciano, welcome.
Thank you, Gloria. Thanks for the opportunity to come on your show and tell folks a little bit about what we're doing over here at AgHelp.
Great.
Thank you.
I think it's fascinating, and people who know me know that I'm a real techie geek kind of person and use technology in so many different ways. But this is, I think, a very needed use of technology and unexpected use of technology. So first of all, Feliciano, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I understand you and your family were migrant farm workers.
Yep. I'm one of 8 children, so pretty large family. 3rd generation farm worker. I was born in San Antonio, Texas, and probably for well over 12 years of my life, our family migrated usually from Texas to Florida, Arkansas, and then to Michigan, following and harvesting the crops. We'd usually wrap up the year in Michigan, harvesting or picking apples, and towards maybe the end of September, early October, we'd pack up and head back down to Texas for the summer, and just until I guess the next year came around. So,
and that's a lot of people just take farm workers for granted, but that's really the beginning of our food chain. How do we get food in our stores and out of the fields into the stores and then into our homes so that we can eat them and cook them, or into restaurants? So I think it's definitely a very important part of all the services and supply chain that we do. So you obviously are not a migrant farm worker anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about how you ended up going to MSU, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so we towards maybe like the middle part of our like high school career, our parents started to kind of see, or they saw that there would be probably a better opportunity for like me and my brothers to actually move into maybe careers that would help maybe improve our lives, or just have more opportunities out there, access to more opportunities. So during our high school year, they actually what they call settled out. So instead of actually going back to Texas, that one year, we decided to stick around in Michigan. And so from there, that they gave us an opportunity to really connect to a lot of local resources in our community, and with different organizations that work directly with farm workers to help us, and me specifically, help us get into higher education. And specifically at Michigan State University, they operate this really awesome program. It's called the camp program. So they have federal and probably also state funded programs that help folks that are working in agriculture an opportunity to get into higher education. I've always loved politics. I think if I wasn't doing what I'm doing now, I think I'd be doing something in politics to probably, change a lot of some of those great social issues. It's something that's always really fascinated me. But with this company, I guess I still have the opportunity to kind of do that.
So great. So we won't talk about all the different jobs that you've had, but you had some interesting jobs, sort of aligned with the agricultural business and industry. But really what I want to focus on is, how did you come up with the idea for AgHelp?
Yeah.
But first of all, tell us what AgHelp is, and then, your idea.
Mm-hmm. So, AgHelp it's a basic, I consider a pretty, simple or basic concept, but with AgHelp, agriculture employers or employers that are looking to hire folks in the agriculture industry, they can post jobs, and then the workers or the workforce that's looking for these opportunities, they can go on to AgHelp, log in through whatever social media account they have, apply to these positions, view the job descriptions, and connect directly with these employers to help them find opportunities, empower them to find these different opportunities. But we're taking a more holistic approach. So we're more than just jobs. So what we're also wanting to do is connect this workforce and this community to the local resources or the local support systems in the area. Some of the things that, when we were growing up and doing this type of work, we depended on, because a lot of the times these job opportunities may not be the highest paying, or they're seasonal, or they don't come with like the big benefit packages that some of these white collar positions do. So we for that reason we're helping them also connect to job training opportunities, community health clinics, and a lot of different other resources that are available out there for for this workforce.
I mean, that's great, because it's there's family units and they stay together, but they're not always in the same location, number one. So they move with the different crops and the different seasons. And I know that there's, sometimes especially with school-age children picking up and dropping off, every time you move to a new location, it can be challenging.
Definitely, for sure. I mean, it was common, when in my career with working with the state, going into, farm labor camps and talking to students, that were up there harvesting with their parents, and, asking, hey, we're going to be going back to Florida. Do you know of any place where we could, connect to, if we want to go to college, or some of these programs that they saw here in Michigan, but they didn't have the opportunity to connect with them because they were finishing up the season and, leaving to another state. So, those are a lot of definitely a lot of challenges with, with the workforce, and especially the migrant labor, this workforce. It's very, very nomadic. So.
Right. So tell me, how did you get the idea for AgHelp?
Yeah, I think it was, I guess, a combination of a couple of things. First, of course, like my personal experience and the experiences that we lived through, for 12 plus years of our lives doing this, the different challenges we faced, whether it was, going to a farm and there not being work there, or no housing, or just arriving maybe at a new state to do work and not knowing where maybe the local community clinic was. So those life experiences, combined with the experiences that I had in my professional career, one, working with these nonprofits that work directly with this workforce, and then I continued to kind of see those challenges in this workforce, even through my work with the state. I think I spent a little over 7 years with the state of Michigan, and with the working directly with growers and workers. And so as I kind of continued to see those problems, I think at the time there was this movie called The Harvest or La Cosecha, and it documented kind of the life of 3 farm worker families that were traveling from Michigan or from Texas to Michigan. So very similar to what we were doing. This came out in 2010, and then I think I was watching it maybe in 2014 or 15. And there was like a scene in the movie where this family had packed up, drove from Texas to I think Ohio, and only to find that the job wasn't there that was promised to them. And so you have this family in 2010, stuck there, not really knowing where to find a job, where to find resources, just struggling. And so that really kind of fueled, I guess, really started to fuel the fire of we have these different apps, different resources. I think at the time like Yelp and Foursquare, where you could pull up an app and maybe find a coffee shop or a restaurant. And so I started to think, why couldn't we use this technology, to help this workforce? There's millions of farm workers that are traveling, and for them to be able to use technology to, one, find jobs, but then also to connect to some of these basic life resources, it can be done. And at the time, nothing like that had been done. There's a lot of states that were doing some great things within their states to connect with this community, but that didn't happen across the country. So that's kind of what really fueled the idea of that movie, and then my personal experiences, and then just continuing to see it, from the 70s up until the 2000s, still continuing to see those same problems in this ecosystem.
Wow, that's it's amazing how an idea compared with personal experience starts you thinking. So you don't have a tech background, so
right?
How did you get to the idea to the actual app?
Yeah. I mean, when it comes down to it, I was once just a farm worker, wanting to make a difference in the lives of the folks that are still out there doing this work, and many folks that love this type of work and want to continue to stay in it. So, but yeah, I do not have a tech background. So I guess what really kind of helped develop the idea was one, just started doing some own research on my own on how something like this would work, and there was some things online that you could create maps of different key points where you wanted folks to find information. So I kind of used that as kind of a base of this is kind of what we want to do. It kind of matches with what Foursquare and what Yelp do, with different businesses. And so I took that idea, and I think at the time Start Garden, which they still do now, I think they were holding this 5x5, where 5 companies pitch for $5,000, and I just decided to put my idea as one of the 5. If you're one of the 5 that get the most votes, then you get the opportunity to present it at this pitch night for $5,000. So that's $5,000 grant. And so we were one of the 5. We were selected. We pitched the idea. That kind of helped us connect to Linda Chamberlain and the work that she was doing with, I think, GVSU, the Technology Commercialization Center. She had this idea of, we have these students that are working on their masters. Maybe we could have you come in, tell your story, your idea, what you want to create, and maybe one of the students will use it as their master's project. And so I did that, and then there was a student that actually ended up using the idea for AgHelp as part of her master's project, and we used that as kind of a prototype to AgHelp. And that just kind of snowballed from there. That helped us, get into some other competitions across the state. We ended up using that idea and this prototype to pitch in Detroit at Startup Boost, up in Traverse City, TC New Tech, as they were just making our rounds, trying to just get the word out about what we had put together and just getting feedback, and how those opportunities to get out there and pitch and tell our idea just led to more connections within the industry. We ended up then connecting with this accelerator program in Iowa, an agriculture specific one, came with some investment. We used a majority of that to actually build the next version of AgHelp, which actually became a mobile website, a website that's mobile friendly pretty much on every device. And then, that just helped us continue to grow, bring on more employers. And finally, we landed the opportunity to go to, I think, Austin for about 3 months. We were selected by Techstars, one of the top accelerators in the country, for the work that we were doing and the social impact that we were doing with AgHelp. That also came with some initial investment. Of course, most of it went to like living expenses in Austin. So super expensive down there. But then that just kind of snowballed, and that kind of brought us to where we're at now.
Wow, that's an amazing journey. I think I saw your pitch. I think it might have been Detroit.
Yeah, Startup Boost. Yeah, there's some great folks out there who love the startup ecosystem.
Right, which is where where I first met you, and it was like, wow, this really is very fascinating. I think it's needed. How long did that take? When did you first start with
with Start? I think that was back in, I believe it was 2015.
Okay.
And then we officially launched our website in the fall of 2019. But from 2015 to 2019, it was just a lot of testing, connecting with folks, getting feedback, and just working on the product and telling folks about it. And but yeah, it wasn't really till the fall of 2019 where we actually launched it.
Great. Mm-hmm. So you talked about the front end, which is developing the technology and all that. Let's talk about the back end or the users. People might wonder, do farm workers really have access to smartphones, and how are they able to connect with your?
Yeah, so there's the Pew Research. I mean, they've had a lot of different articles that have come out there just highlighting how prevalent the Latino community is with using mobile technology. I think the latest thing I saw was in 2019 that over 96 of Hispanics or Latinos have access to either mobile phone or some type of app capable or smart device. But and just how inexpensive they are these days, for maybe $30 or $40 and some minutes that you buy. They're so easily accessible. Not only that, but some of the stuff that we've seen within AgHelp, some of the analytics that we've seen, folks coming on to AgHelp to use it, I believe over 90% are logging in from their mobile devices, and those happen to be Apple iPhones. Second place is Android. So we can just see how prevalent these this workforce or how much access they have to the to smartphones. In addition to that, I think my experiences too when I was working for the state, going out to the different farms, it was very common to see farm workers, after working 8 to 10 hours, coming home, we'd go there, to maybe just connect with them, see how things were going. But it was very common for them to be on their smartphone and either using it to connect to their families in other states, other countries, and even just to entertain themselves after a long hard days work, with especially when some of these camps where they're not necessarily near a lot of entertainment or big cities. So it's a tool that they use to, one of the, besides a vehicle, I think it's one of the most important tools that this population or this workforce really invests in to be able to stay connected.
I mean, people really think about, I mean, this is a mobile population.
Mm-hmm.
So doing something that they can, oh, well, you can go to the website and do this, but they're not really always, it's not easy for them to go to a website, but they have an app on their phone, then they can actually do that. And thank you for clearing up some of those perceptions about Latinos and farm workers not having access to some of this technology, because that's, like you said, that's how they stay in touch with
Yeah, it is.
their family and the world around them and the services around them. So.
Exactly. Yeah. And we see that even too with, a lot of the initiatives, especially I think in state where they're really pouring a lot of money into like the infrastructure and into rural areas to just build out the connectivity in those rural areas, because they know how important it is. And once Elon Musk gets his satellites up, it's, no matter where you are, you're going to be connected.
Exactly. So agriculture is not typically thought of as a high-tech industry with apps. This is for us city folks who aren't out on the farm. Can you tell us a little bit about tech in agriculture?
Yeah, I mean, it's really been exciting. Just, the past 5-6 years that we've been kind of, working in this space and with seeing other startups in the agriculture industry. One of the key things that like we've always heard is like by 2050, there's going to be like 10 billion more people on this earth, and we're going to have millions more people to feed. And so what that's really caused is agriculture to kind of go into like this next phase, evolve from a lot of like this manual labor, handheld tools, to actually using like GPS, in their tractors, drones even, that fly over the fields that let them know how much water certain area needs, where they need fertilizer, a lot of data sensors. All of these different tools are just helping farmers kind of manage their resources, because they're very limited, manage them more efficiently, but then also what they call, I guess, precision agriculture, where they're taking limited resources and just making the most out of them to get the most yield, to produce more with having to spend less. So technology is making a huge impact in the agriculture industry. We've seen that, and even with a lot of these new industries, one in particular, I think like the hemp industry, that's growing huge. That there hasn't been a lot of technology in that industry yet. A lot of the work is still done manually, but because of that, we've seen these different startups, different companies, just putting a lot of effort and money into bringing technology to agriculture. So it's gonna be fascinating, really, to see what happens, I guess, over the next few years. But it's definitely a space that you wouldn't have probably normally thought of it as like high tech, but it's getting there. Especially with you've had the new generation of farmers, the Generation X, the millennials that are coming in and taking over some of these operations. They're a lot more tech savvy. They like using technology, and so that's really also helped to kind of fuel the advancement in technology in agriculture. So that's something that we saw too with AgHelp, and using this type of technology to connect with growers. They were very, very excited to see that, Whereas before it was, agriculture employers using either maybe newspapers or road signs or maybe posting flyers, at different stores to try to connect with this workforce. But yeah, it's really, really exciting what we're seeing in agriculture and the technology, for sure.
That's great, because people wouldn't, like I said, wouldn't ordinarily think of agriculture as high tech, but we talked about drones flying over the fields to help the farmers focus their limited resources. I think that makes a lot more sense than having to walk the fields every day, or especially if it's a business trying to really keep track of everything. It makes a lot of sense. And using these tools now really helps us be more productive, more productive agriculturally.
Yeah, the data that's available now that growers are getting from these fields, everything from how much fertilizer or how much water a certain section needs, where they instead of having to water the entire field, they can be more precise and just water that certain area that needs it. It's amazing. It's amazing what technology is doing to agriculture.
Yeah, true. So, AgHelp, are you still considered a startup, or?
Yeah, I think they say, at least the first 3 years. I mean, we officially launched in 2019. And I think we probably have to add an extra year because of the pandemic. So we didn't really get to do a lot last year, but we're still kind of in the growing phases, just kind of learning to walk right now. So yeah.
So I know just a little bit about the startup business as well, but what were the challenges for you and AgHelp in obtaining investments or just getting people to listen to you, particularly since AgHelp is an agricultural app and you are Latino?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's the information's out there. Most of the venture capital funding that goes to startups, I think only maybe a little over 2.5% actually goes to Latino or Black founders of startups. That's just been the way it has been. There's a lot of investors nowadays that are working to change that, but that's kind of been kind of what we got into, when we started AgHelp, and that was definitely a big challenge. Again, because one, it was agriculture, we're Latino, and we were farm workers. So for us, it was more about telling our story, why we thought we were experts in solving this problem of helping these workers connect with jobs and resources, and it came through that. And the way we told it was, we lived this experience, that gave us a lot of credibility in the work that we were doing with AgHelp. And then also with the work that we did, professionally, working with both nonprofits and with the state, those insights people don't usually get, actually living the life of a farm worker, and then continuing to see kind of the other side in their professional experience. So that was something very key that investors thought was important with us, even though we didn't have like a strong, business or tech background. But then some of the things we also focused on, like when we were talking to investors, is one, we focused on investors that were specifically working in agriculture or to help the agriculture industry. So they already kind of knew a little bit of, about some of the problems, the pain points that we were trying to address, both with workers and growers, but then also with investors that were focused on impact, on social impact, because that's one of the key pillars, that we focus on, not just jobs, but then also the social impact. How are we going to, empower and better the lives of this community besides helping them attain jobs. And some of those were, to help them connect with just your basic life resources, community health clinics, training opportunities. And so those are kind of the things that we use when we're out there trying to gain investment. It's just kind of focusing on our expertise, personally and professionally, but then talking to investors that already knew the space, and then investors that also were interested in social impact, not just about how fast and how much money and how quickly you can grow and how many millions of dollars you can make in a few years. So,
and that's well, what I will say is typical. Always look at the face that's in front of them and make assumptions based on what they see or on the background, and rather than focusing on what is it really, what is the problem, the pain point that you're trying to solve. So you mentioned that you work with other organizations to help spread the word about different services. Can you elaborate a little bit more about that, please?
Yeah, for sure. So some of the ways that we wanted to be able to get AgHelp into the hands of agriculture workers is through using some channels that had already been established for many years, channels that we used when we were working in agriculture. So in some of these organizations, for example, in Texas, there's the migrant education program. So they've been around for many years. They get federal and state funding to go out and help this community connect to schools, childcare, education. And so we use those channels to connect to the workforce. They've already been established. Workers, trust them, and some of those are the ones like in Texas Migrant Education. In Michigan, there are a lot of organizations, and actually out of a majority of the states, Michigan is one of the ones that are doing, they do an outstanding job as far as connecting to the agriculture community in this workforce. An organization in particular is the Interagency Migrant Services Committee. They connect, I think, once a month, and it's all these different organizations, and they kind of work on different issues and just kind of how to help this community. But it's working with programs like that in Michigan. Telemon is another great program that we've been we've connected with. They're a national organization, actually, federally funded. It's the National Farmworker Jobs Training Program. In Michigan, it's Telemon. They're the fiduciary, or the grantee, sorry. And some of their main goals are to help agricultural workers connect to higher education, training opportunities. And so again, one of our main goals is to connect to those kind of organizations because they've already established those networks, and that has really helped us get definitely to where we're at now. But just using the resources that are out there right now, they're all very fragmented. Some states are doing a really great job. Some states could do a little bit better. But for us, it's using those, and then and we mirroring that on AgHelp. So when a worker goes on to AgHelp, it's jobs and it's resources too. So
great. So we have a question here. Let me pop it up on the screen. How many users does AgHelp have? And what are some challenges you have encountered in finding new users?
Yeah. So we've been since we launched, again, which was in the October of 2019. We have a little over 3,000 users or workers that have created an account on AgHelp, and we have a pretty significant presence on social media. We have a closed group of workers across the country that went from like 300 to about 10,000 in the course of a year. That was last year. And so we use that as when we get new positions, we bring those folks onto AgHelp. So the challenge has been, I guess, most on the employer side, is actually getting the word out to agriculture employers. There's so many different things that employers are doing. For us, that's been the hardest thing. Not so much the workers. The workers are coming to AgHelp. We're seeing them sign up, but it's the challenges with the employers. It's just I think for the most part is probably just getting out in front of these growers. We had a lot of plans to do some trade shows last year and really get in front of agriculture employers, connect with them on a personal level, and just kind of let them know about AgHelp. But but a lot of those things didn't pan through because of the pandemic. So a lot of the stuff we're doing now is just kind of social media marketing, which is a little bit more expensive, but that's been the hardest challenge, is probably the employer piece.
So, yeah, it's always that's always a challenge, especially during these times. How many states are you in?
So we originally wanted to focus on kind of like Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, of course, because we're based in Michigan, but we started to see employers and workers coming on board from other states. We've seen a majority of the employers and workers from like the Northwest, a couple in the Midwest, and maybe some out in the West Coast. But total, I think over the past year, we had a little over employers from about 12 or 13 states, maybe more, and it changes, on a month-to-month basis when we have new employers that post. But the majority are coming from the northeast side of the country right now.
Great. Oh, and I forgot to ask, do workers have to pay to use AgHelp?
No, the only how we're set up is an employer, they pay to post a position, and employer and workers can create a free profile, apply to jobs, and if they're just looking for resources, they don't even have to create a profile on AgHelp. They can simply go to the website and look for the resource, depending on what state they are, and connect to that resource directly. So, but it's free for workers.
Oh, that's great. So let me ask you a trivia question, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
What is the most unusual crop that someone has requested help with?
I think the only one that we've seen is probably cannabis. We had an employer recently that came on board, posted a position, and they didn't really just come out and saying it's cannabis and this is what we're doing. They kind of laid it out more of kind of like a nursery or greenhouse type of work, but we knew it was cannabis. But that's another industry that's just, it's blowing up. I mean, Oregon, that one is growing even quicker than hemp. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity there. But I think that's the only one that I can think of.
What is AgHelp's future? What's your vision for the future?
Oh, geez, I think our main vision is to become the only place for agricultural workers to go and find jobs, and for employers to be able to find this workforce. What we see down the road is a place, just building, I guess, a community more than just a job board, a community where a worker can go on to AgHelp, connect to these resources directly, and then also to these jobs, and then through this work that we're doing, hopefully in some way or another, whether it's, monetarily giving back to the community, maybe scholarships for, folks that are interested in, doing, continuing higher education, or even, in agriculture. And then we're also kind of looking at opportunities in other countries that also, have this challenge and are even more agriculture, like they're more focused on agriculture as well, or more dependent on agriculture. So we see some great things, but right now we're just trying to just learn the basics, getting connecting these workers with these jobs and these resources, and the more that we can do that correctly and have happy workers and employers, that's going to help kind of just build on what we're doing, and then hopefully realize some of those larger goals that we have in mind for our company.
Great. So I put in the banner underneath is your website. So we are just about out of time. Feliciano, are there any parting thoughts that you would like to share with us?
Oh, I guess, I guess one of the main things is just to continue, continue supporting, supporting the agriculture industry, whether it's, going to, a farmer's market, or even going to like the local farm to show your children, how, where these vegetables or where their food comes from, or maybe even donating to local organizations that work directly with this population. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is just to continue supporting the agriculture industry, and then that when you think of agriculture, it's not always necessarily this workforce that's it's that's always, I guess, how would you say, that they're not folks that are just kind of looking for like handouts or looking for resources. This workforce, they do this type of work, one, because they love to work in agriculture. I know folks that have been in agriculture, they would rather not be anywhere else, because they love working with the land. They don't necessarily do it for the money. It's to just earn a living, working with their hands, working outdoors and nature, so just, I guess, to be cognizant of that. We've seen just over the past year, this has an essential industry, so that really helped to really highlight a lot of what this workforce is doing, and some of the things that they have to do even through like a pandemic. They have to still go out there and harvest, one, to feed their families, but then also to make sure that we have food on our shelves for our families. So and they're folks, they're not always Latino or Hispanic. We've seen a lot of folks that have come onto AgHelp that are people, white Americans that love working in agriculture, whether it's dairy industry or farming. It's a very, very diverse ecosystem. Even though a lot of times we hear and see that a large portion of the workforce is Latino or Hispanic, but it's a very diverse workforce. But just continue supporting the industry.
Right. I mean, we have to, because that's how we get food on our table. So Thank you so much, Feliciano. If you can stick around for just a couple minutes afterwards, and you and I will finish up. So
awesome.
Thank you so much. So now I'm showing, okay, so this is our website, ethnicdiversity.org. You can go to our website, and right on the homepage is our pledge, a call to action, our commitment to dismantling racism. So please sign up, and that would be really great. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks, and take care, everybody.